to have someone at the helm here of this very chaotic, very disorganized, unsupportive, unhelpful system that's not working optimally, to have someone at the helm who is rather avoidantly, dismissively attached. So in this series, we're examining the attachment themes strewn throughout the FX Hulu show, The Bear. We will be discussing in detail each episode as the story unfolds, so that you can watch or rewatch before you listen and then follow along with our discussion. We have seen all the episodes, but we won't discuss any content beyond the episodes we're discussing. So if you haven't seen the show, press pause now, go watch, and hop back on to the podcast. I am so glad to be back with you, Michael.
Sames.
And I am quite excited to finally drink this drink that you made for us.
Yeah, it's been sitting here for a little bit.
It has. So Can you introduce it to us so I can get on with imbibing in it?
Absolutely. Today we are having a New York Sour, which we'll talk a little bit more later. It's kind of ironic because the show we're going to talk about is from Chicago, and I just did not have the forethought. #failing. But no, we're doing the New York Sour, which is a play on a whiskey sour. Usually sometimes has an egg white, but it's consisted of whiskey, lemon, and simple syrup. This New York Sour in particular is, if those of you are watching, it's a beautiful little drink. So it has the whiskey sour base, again, whiskey, lemon, and simple syrup, and then it's topped with a wine floater. So a red wine floater on top. And it really just kind of smooths it out.
She's pretty.
She is very pretty.
I do have a question about how one, cheers. It's a little too far.
It is a little too far. Yeah. Clink. All right, so we have a New York Sour.
How does one drink it?
You can stir it up if you'd like, but it balances out just by sipping on it, I think.
It's nice and refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to stir it.
Go for it. Mix it up.
With my handy dandy stir stick. Wow, I wonder if you can hear that.
It's pretty. Yeah, it's picking it up. Mm. Sounds like a wind chime.
Mm.
Cheers.
Delish.
So yeah, as we've been doing this, in the background of my mind, I've kind of wanted to rename the podcast. We're not going to, because it's still attachment for the people, and that's what we'll be focusing on. But I've also thought of it as Drinks with a Therapist. And I'm excited to talk about this new series and this kind of new direction we're going in. And so why don't you tell the people about it, what we're doing?
Yeah, we're going to look at attachment themes that are strewn throughout much of pop culture, TV, movies. And in this case, we're going to look at the FX Hulu show, The Bear.
Fabulous name.
Incredible. First 2 seasons are out. Third one is being recorded. Mm-hmm. And so this show is rife with family, conflict, personal, individual, systems, families.
It has everything.
Absolutely.
There may be several, like you may identify with many of the characters, depending on the family you come from.
Yeah, absolutely.
One way I've heard the show be talked about is that it has a focus on the family we're born into and the family we choose, and then all the chaos that ensues around that.
Yeah, because so many of us were not so fortunate. So many of us grew up in families where there was, lots of chaos. And that is certainly the case for the central family and then the chosen family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm so excited. It's one of the few shows I watch and I have watched and rewatched.
Yeah, it's been fun to prepare for this because I've watched it over and over. My wife, I think, is a little... She's not done. She loves the show, but she refuses to let me watch it before bed. She's like, there's no way that's helpful with your sleep. There's no way.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I even came in quite jazzed.
That's right.
After...
We were about to record and I was like, do you need a beat? Do we need to decompress? I was like, what's going on?
I was amped.
You're like, no, I just watched the show. Which is feedback. We actually told our neighbors to watch it. And the first text we got back as they were watching it was, is it this stressful the whole time?
I have been surprised, and I can take it for granted, to hear how many people have had difficulty watching the show and how distressing it has been for some, especially second season toward the end, one particular show, that several people couldn't finish it because it was so evoking, so provoked their own distress.
Right.
And I had no problem watching it per se. It's definitely moving, at times disturbing, but
yeah. I find myself watching it. I get tearful in every episode. And sometimes I'm like, why is cutting vegetables making me cry right now? But I find this show beautiful, and I don't think as worked up as some have talked about, but I think everything is just done so masterfully between the music, the writing, the cinematography of it all.
yeah. And then the acting.
The acting is just superb. Yeah.
So let's get into it.
So we're going to talk about it, but we wanted to let you know we're also not going to spoil it.
Oh, that's right. We're only going to talk about the episodes that we're going to talk about, and we're going to take them 1-2 at a time.
Right.
We have seen the whole episode. We have seen the whole series,
right?
But we intend not to talk about themes or scenes or information that we would get in later episodes. Yeah.
Yes. No spoilers. So go back, watch it if you need to.
Yep.
Then come back.
Yeah. Watch it again after you listen to the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're basically going to give you kind of a therapist view of the show.
Yes. And how therapists often think about the themes.
Right.
Either the characters or the dynamics between characters or themes that we see. Yeah.
All right.
And it starts so easily.
Yeah, let's get into it. Like how I want to open it is it starts out in a dream. And I kind of have fantasies of just coming to you and saying, okay, Michael, someone comes in with this dream. There's a trapped bear in a cage in the middle of the city in Chicago on a bridge, and go. You're the therapist. What do you do? What happens?
Well, I definitely would want to hear more about the dream because there's a lot more detail to pay attention to. And sometimes patients need help paying attention, right? What'd you just do?
So I just stuck my finger in my drink.
Oh, yeah.
As I tried to grab it.
There's a part of you that wants to stir it. So, and so you gave like the bare bones of the dream, but I would want to draw out more of the details. What bridge? What kind of bridge? What are the colors? What are the sounds or the lack thereof?
Yeah.
And so the dream starts with these two bright lights, kind of symmetrical. There is a bear in a cage, and the cage is sitting on the seam of the drawbridge.
Oh, interesting.
And so it's also a drawbridge bridge. And there's a character that will turn out to be one of the main characters of the show, Carmi. He's walking very slowly toward the bear. There's an opening of the cage. There's a silent roar of the bear. One would anticipate it being loud and terrifyingly in its sound, but in the dream, it's silent. Carmi is seemingly trying to soothe or comfort or quiet or tame the bear.
Yeah, he keeps saying it's okay.
And he keeps saying, it's okay. It's okay. And then the dream sort of abruptly ends with the bear presumably lunging, coming after, attacking Carmi.
Yeah. I think what stands out to me is that he is trying to soothe what is very dangerous in front of him.
Yeah. And I think that's a very therapist, especially attachment-oriented language. I think maybe folks that aren't steeped in this might think taming, but I think we probably think of those concepts as very similar. Soothing, soothing a crying baby, soothing a crying baby that seems so unsoothable.
I was thinking of it in reverse. I was thinking of it as a child trying to soothe an unavailable mother.
And so
unavailable caregiver. Parent.
Already we're getting into attachment themes and the double meanings of things. When I'm immediately thinking about attachment, I'm thinking about the bear being the infant, wild and uncultured and just pure instinct and pure drives.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then thinking about family systems, absolutely. It's so easy to think about or to wonder, is this a child trying to tame an unruly, untamable, unsoothable parent who is maybe struggling with mental illness or addiction, specifically mental illness? And when those sorts of themes are showing up in a person's lives and therefore in their dreams, that's a really problematic dynamic for security of attachment. It's antithetical.
Right.
Children should not be in the role of soothing the caretaker. It should be just the opposite, because the child is the one who's more bear-like, uncivilized, can't quite regulate yet without co-regulating, can't quite think without co-thinking, and is such an obvious theme that's going to go in the movie of who's soothing who,
right?
Why are they soothing or attempting to soothe?
Attempting, yeah. I also see it in the adult relationship way as well.
Sure.
Wondering. So I really appreciate your mind conceptualizing the bear as that instinctual. Even though in our adult, I still think we have a lot of instinctual things, but I deal with adults all day long.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm constantly kind of going back to that. But it's refreshing to see it in that light.
I think, especially given attachment, the symbolic unit of study is infant caretaker,
right?
A dyad. Even though attachment, as it moves through and into the adult lifespan, it's also can be considered something that's also very just within an individual. But the dream has so many pairs, the two golden lights that are in the very beginning, the two sides of a bridge, the two characters in the dream, a human and a bear. There's all these pairs.
Yeah.
And it for me brings to mind attachment dynamics or attachment needs, the pairs, and are the two pairs going to work together? Are they in opposition? Are they complementing? Are they in symmetry? Or are they disjointed? Are they in conflict? Are they illuminating or are they oppressing? And so I see in the dream these kind of attachment pair themes as well.
Beautiful. Exciting to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, I'm going to look at some of my notes in case I'm forgetting. Then there's also, I think, there's the opening of a cage. And so there's these two characters trying to meet, or at least it's unclear who wants to meet who.
Right.
One would think Carmi, the adult and the human who's opening the cage, wants to meet the caged animal in a different way, not from the caged position or a distant position as he's approaching.
Yeah.
But what is he letting out? Is he letting out a secret? Is he letting out something that needs to be set free? Is it a personal secret? Is it a family secret? Certainly, whatever it is, it's unruly and it's powerful and rather threatening. And is it some part of himself that he's trying to let out, that he's terrified of and is terrifying?
So is it a reflection?
Yeah. Is it a reflection or a projection? Is it a part of Carmi being addressed or dealt with in the projected form of the bear.
I kind of like the idea of him soothing himself, though. When we think of it like that,
Yeah.
like it's okay.
Yeah.
Almost scared of himself.
Sure. Scared of his impulses, scared of his desires, and an attempt to attune to it, an attempt to soothe it. I wouldn't say that in terms of the dream, he's effective.
Right.
Right. So it might be a very misattuned form, an ineffective soothing. Yeah. Or is it also just the opposite? Or I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but maybe in terms of the misattunement, that maybe it's a kind of rage that doesn't need to be tamed, but needs to be honored.
It needs to be, yeah.
It needs to be resonated with. It needs to be joined. It needs to be tolerated and contained, but not squelched, not tampered, not dampened.
Which is a huge part of attachment science and bonding, that we often want to tamper down what seems maybe loud, what seems scary.
Yep, unpleasant.
But to truly attune to it is to experience it, feel it, to be with.
Yes.
As opposed to squelch.
Yeah. To be with, to tolerate, to be with, and name, to be with, and mirror it back, but mirror it back in a way that is a little bit more digested, that gives the infant, child, toddler a sense that it's understandable and understood and manageable.
They're validated.
And therefore validated. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing more invalidating than don't be scared.
Yeah, or it's okay.
That's
it's
not
okay.
scary.
Because maybe it's not okay.
Right.
And that's what the bear maybe is trying to say is, I'm not okay. And you keep trying to dismiss what I'm trying to tell you. The information I'm trying to proclaim or share or get someone to pay attention to. And and the bear, or the part of Carmi, is getting this message of, you're wrong about that. And please don't feel that.
Yeah.
And essentially maybe, please don't need me. So I don't know if that's what's going on.
Right.
But these are ways in which I might work with a patient and this dream in all of these directions.
Right. Taking in all the information.
Yeah.
And not making one lump sum.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
But if
label.
If it's with a patient, I will likely have already had the rest of the episode,
right,
if you will. This show starts out with a dream.
Right.
And I suppose a patient could come in for a session and just start with a dream.
Sure.
Sounds like a fun session.
I would love that. But I love the idea. I think part of what I enjoy being a therapist, one of the joys of it, is always looking for and around what's being said. There's so much more being said than just the actual words and the telling of the story. The telling, how it's told, the perspective in which it's told, all matters, but also understanding that there's story all around it that's unspoken, that we're looking for and putting together from previous stories they've told.
I like that because of how, at least the way that the storytelling is done in the show, there's no real way to make a coherent understanding of the dream because you have no context. It's just this dream. It's just this raw sort of data. And you can't connect it to any other dream or any other story, current, past, in terms of clinical work. There's an inability. We're sort of shooting darts in the dark. Is that the phrase? I don't do darts.
Throwing
darts. Oh, I said shooting. You don't shoot darts. Sports. It's what men do. The funny thing is I was a jock. It's fine. Allegedly. So it's like throwing darts in the dark in terms of trying to make a coherent understanding of this dream. We can do it a little bit because we've seen the whole 2 seasons worth, but at the get-go, we can't do that. And as therapists, that's what we're wanting to do, is help a patient move from an incoherent story to a coherent story.
Right.
Because a coherent story is a coherent mind, and a coherent mind is a secure mind.
Secure mind, right.
And a secure mind in relationships with others is an optimal functioning mind. It's where we're trying to get to.
Yeah. And I'm realizing as far as we've gone into this so far,
Yeah.
we haven't actually introduced like what the show's about.
Sure. Yeah.
The opening scene, and there's so much richness in it. That's really what I'm taking from this is we're going to be careful because we could talk for hours on the first 20 seconds
True.
of the show. And we didn't really talk about how to introduce the show, but I would say the main plot line is it's a family system where one of the brothers has gone off and is become a rising up and coming chef, Michelin star at the French Laundry in California. And brother and family own a beef shop in Chicago.
Italian beef.
Italian
to be specific.
beef. I didn't. Interesting. And he has inherited this beef shop because a brother has passed away.
Yeah.
And from there, it's him leaving this pristine, accolade-drenched life.
Intense, high.
Intense study.
It's because we've never eaten there.
Right? I think we
Although
should do
would
that
love
for
to.
research.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing. Yeah, it's the high culture of cuisine that he leaves,
Yes.
be it in New York or wine country of California, and comes to this gritty,
Greasy.
hole in the wall ish Italian beef that is many people's favorite places to go.
Right. Been in the city. It's a city staple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's him trying to come in and pick up where his brother left off
By all
and be a part of the family.
accounts, he didn't leave off in a very good spot.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the show about a family trying to run a family business, and it's glorious. Yeah, it's good. Also known as psychotherapy.
I imagine we're the only ones that are going to laugh at that.
Yeah, sure. That's right. I know. Therapist jokes. That's her nickname. And Sugar absolutely knows and appreciates
Has pride.
and has a lot of pride. And so does her husband.
I think he might be my favorite
I think he is your favorite.
because I may be him.
I've already forgot his name.
Don't know it either.
Yeah, but
that
Sugar's
may
husband.
speak to my own story.
Yeah, sure. I think I have it written down somewhere. So the dominant narrative absolutely is the family system of the restaurant, The Beef, which is the name of the restaurant, doesn't care. And aspects of the family seems like it doesn't, the biological family seems like it doesn't care.
They don't appreciate it.
But
Yeah.
I think that's not entirely true as the season will unfold.
Right.
We'll see some characters that actually really cared a whole lot. Pete is Sugar's husband.
Yes.
So we've got Carmi, the chef, and the brother that is inherited. Sugar, his sister,
Right.
and Pete, her husband. To round out that family, we also have Michael, the brother that was running the restaurant,
Right.
that has died. And then the chosen family, or the peripheral family, mainly we have Sydney. Then we have Richie, also known as Cousin.
Cousin Richie. He is a character, literally.
Quite.
A character.
Cousin is not actually a cousin, but a sort of adopted cousin. And then we have Tina,
I think Tina's also one of
the
my
line
favorite.
cook.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And then, the baker.
Oh, what's the baker's name? The character development of him is phenomenal. I mean, of all of them is great, but I like his character development a lot.
Yeah, it's funny how it's Marcus.
Okay.
We're just blanking on these names. Marcus is the baker. And then we have Ibrahim as another sort of line cook. Ibrahim, and then
We have Fak.
Fak, another non-cousin, Although, actually, is he blood cousin? He's not. By marriage? I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll learn that
It's
later.
revealed later, yeah.
Yeah.
I've really focused on the first 2 episodes, so.
Yeah, so we have Fac. And then we have one of the dishwashers, Ibra. I think there's Sweeps and Angel, the dishwashers.
Yes.
Yeah. And then eventually Jimmy, Uncle.
Uncle Jimmy.
Yeah.
Mobster.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe. Seems like it.
Yeah. All right, so these are our main characters.
Yeah.
We'll get more as the season continues. But this is sort of right there in the first 2 episodes.
Yes, absolutely.
Carmy starts to give us hints at his dismissive, avoidant attachment when he's trying to soothe something that is not quite soothable, when he's misattuned maybe to the bear.
Right.
He's ineffective, and it's in the direction of down-regulating. He wants to say, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, which is a classic dismissive, avoidant, nervous system
Tendency,
direction.
right. Yeah, other places may turn it, just for people to help them understand, that turning down the volume.
Yeah, turning down the volume is a lovely way of saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I do all the time. Let's just bring it down, bring it down. Yeah. So, turning down the volume.
He, in that first episode, asks his sister for some help, but not that kind of help.
That was a great line. Yeah.
And-
I also wanted to know what she said, and it doesn't reveal it.
Yes, not immediately. But the kind of help that he's asking for is very pragmatic. It's logistical.
Transactional.
It's transactional and doesn't require too much of the personhood of his sister, other than she happens to know where a particular blanket is that Carmy needs in order to buy more beef.
Right.
Yeah. So then again, that kind of dismissive, avoidant, emotionally, he's sort of shut off.
Really into the doing of things.
Really into the doing, the pragmatic, the solving a problem and solving it rather by himself.
Yes.
And in the way that he thinks it needs to be solved. He doesn't ask Sugar for money. He doesn't ask her opinion about some other way. He doesn't ask anybody
Right.
how to solve the problem. We don't have any money to pay the vendors for the beef that we need as the cornerstone of our restaurant. There's an exchange that he's on the phone with someone where it's clear they're talking about the loss, the death of his brother.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, we're doing fine. We're doing fine.
That's kind of you.
Yeah, that's kind of you.
Again, turning down the volume.
Turning down the volume.
Stop emoting. Stop.
Yes. Stop attending to the emotional content.
That's not going to fix this. More beef will fix this.
Sure. Or information or some sort of problem solving. Other things that show up that give you a sense. Is that your sense also of Carmy?
It is, yes. Very much a dismissive, avoidant attachment classification. And that he's always, and when turning down the volume, it doesn't mean the volume of his voice. It doesn't mean he can't get angry, but it's turning down like the feelings. Like it doesn't, I don't like that. It's not that he doesn't want to feel.
It's helpful to think about the motivation.
Yes.
So that when he is getting angry, his motivation is to then turn down the volume. He wants it to calm down.
Right.
And he will get eventually pushed to these places, first episode, about the unsharpened knives, about the dirty place.
Well, and what he's attracted to in the namesake of the first episode is the system.
Yes.
That is where the security is going to come from.
And he's trying to make a system move towards security, but it also will have qualities of turning a system down.
Yeah.
And it may need that, but it is just congruent with that dismissive, avoidant, wanting to make things less loud, less complicated, less messy. I forgot about the name of the episode. Absolutely. The system. And, it's
long pause.
No, just another thoughtfulness. There is that quality of none of we try and hold this non-pathological stance, this non-judgmental stance about any of the classifications. They are what they are, and we come by them honestly. And they were these solutions to deal with the way that our world was as infants. And we parented or were parented from that same sort of honest place. And we can see how it's helpful to have someone at the helm here of this very chaotic, very disorganized, aggressive, unsupportive, unhelpful system that's not working optimally, to have someone at the helm who is rather avoidantly, dismissively attached to bring down the chaos toward organization, toward coherence, toward cohesion. It's helpful.
It is helpful.
We're going to eventually see the limits of that, the glass ceilings of when there are times where it's needed to attune and be more emotionally present and in your feelings and with the other feelings of others.
Right.
That someone like Carmi, seemingly so dismissively attached, can't quite attune to and misses people.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's a great scene just between him and his sister whenever she brings the requested item. And his first statement is, didn't put it in a bag or anything. And she says, that's how you greet me. And so from their own perspective, what I see there is what I see all the time is a dismissive, avoidant attachment, classification, engaging and colliding with an anxious, preoccupied attachment, and how there's this constant, no, turn the volume up. No, turn it down. No, turn it up. Turn it down.
Yes.
And so even in her own conflict, she's wanting to embrace, wanting to be with him. And how it comes out is with sass, with sarcasm.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you greet me? When she desperately wants to be greeted and loved and connect with him.
Yes.
And so it's that I loved that scene.
Absolutely.
And again, there's so many just short scenes. It's like, oh, look at it. It's happening.
Two
right
people
there.
with two different needs, or two people with the same need.
Same need, right.
But are going to manage those needs very differently.
And who came from the same family. That's what I love is we all survived in our own way.
Yeah.
And the strategies, the classifications, the styles that we learned along the way to survive.
Now, just to sort of contrast it.
Okay.
Because Tina is a great contrast to someone who Sugar may have been looking to sort of connect in a up-regulating or turning up the volume in a grand greeting, because frankly, they hadn't seen each other in a while.
Right.
Even though they live somewhat in the same Chicago city. But Carmi appears to be avoiding and pouring himself into the restaurant, and Sugar seems somewhat boundaried, and Tina is someone who really manages needs by turning up the volume. She escalates things. She intensifies things. She's sass on sass in her interactions around the pot, the way in which she hides Carmi's knife.
Right.
These are all sort of provocative.
Calls him Jeff instead of Chef.
She mishears it first, and then, just sort of like twisting a knife to be sort of, that is in a way that's insulting. He's trying to show her respect, and she returns it with disrespect. And in that sort of contrasting to Sugar, who is wanting to turn up the volume a bit, you have Tina, who's really wanting to turn up the volume, and in a way that is really chaotic and sometimes frightening in how aggressive she can be. The interaction between she and Sydney.
Sid,
She is aggressive towards Sydney. She is adversarial.
Absolutely.
And that is all this sort of turning up a volume, and is in a kind of, Sydney doesn't seem scared, but it is a kind of frightening way in which Tina is relating. And it reminds me of the disorganized attachment classification, where people can be both frightened and frightening.
So I was going to ask you, I was wondering if you were thinking and leaning that way for Tina is more the disorganized category, because she also has these really tender, lovely moments where she even asks of like, why doesn't your sister come anymore?
Yes.
And why won't she come to the store?
That's right.
And I know there's another scene where, because I remember feeling that tension of like, she's the protagonist. And then all of a sudden when Carmi burns his hand, and then all of a sudden she's caring and she's like, oh no, like, and wants to provide and tend to.
Yes.
So yeah. She flips.
Yes.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
And
she seems to employ these different kinds of strategies that are escalating and de-escalating, turning up volumes, turning down volumes.
Yeah.
In ways that are sometimes helpful and unhelpful.
Okay. Let's talk about cousin Richie.
Okay.
Yeah. What are some identifiers that, or some scenarios that kind of give you an idea of what his classification may be?
Yeah. To sort of contrast cousin Richie to someone like Carmi and Sydney. Carmi and Sydney use a lot fewer words in their communication.
He speaks so much.
And cousin is verbose.
So many words.
And so we haven't talked about Sydney, but I would put Sydney in a dismissive avoidant attachment classification as well. They both, Carmi and Sydney, both have that sort of down-regulating, turning down a volume in what seems to motivate a lot of their interactions. And then you have Richie, who just comes in loud, continues it loud. He is connecting. He's in everyone's business. He's a storyteller, but he's not the most coherent storyteller. And it's sort of chaotic and intrusive. And rather, he's entangled in everyone's business.
See, that's the perfect word there. That fits so well. He is entangled in everything.
And sort of an entangler.
Okay.
I find Marcus not just delightful, but I think Marcus keeps showing right off the bat signs of a kind of security.
I was going to say, like, we haven't talked about the different classifications and some of the assessments and the types. And I don't know if we'll ever get that detailed, but I imagine him being a secure base, leaning every now and then into a classification or into some of the insecure classifications. But I find him rooted in security.
Why? Or what's there? I have several examples.
He has a confidence of who he is and kind of where he's come from. And he's open to taking direction. Like there's that small part of him. There's that one scene where he's like the bread and it's too flaky. He keeps blaming it on the mixer. And Carmi comes in and is like, it's not that. You need to put a pan of water in the bottom so I'll do this. And like, don't tell me to do my job. At the same time, like he didn't seem like defeated and torn apart by that. He was able to keep going. He was able to continue functioning, doing it. And he took on the mind of another and tried it out.
Yes.
And then therefore was successful and then was able to acknowledge, oh, you know what you're doing. Thanks. I can do this. And he then showed the sign of respect saying, heard chef.
Yes.
That's the scene that gets me and why I'm tearing up right now. What the hell? But yeah, that there is, so that organization inside him to kind of push, pull, go with the flow and
reflect on himself.
Right.
Examine maybe there's another way of doing things.
Yeah.
He's also brilliantly coherent in first session where he's accurate.
First session?
That is not a slip of a tongue. First episode. I bet I'm going to do that from here on in. That is funny. First season, yes, and first episode where Carmi comes in and says, we need more bread. And he pushes adequately back. I told you what I needed.
Yes.
The mixer is broken. I have to do all this by hand. That takes a lot more time. And that's an appropriate check to Carmi. And Carmi hears it and promises, I'm going to get you one. And second episode.
Which avoidant, dismissive will do.
That's right. And I will take care of it.
I have no
idea how I'm going to take care of it. And so second episode, that scene that you're talking about, Carmi still hasn't followed through with fixing the mixer. And so he's right in that this is why it's not working. But Marcus is right that this is why it's not working well. But Carmi comes in and helps him see there's a way around to solve the problem, which is what Carmi was really doing really well when you couldn't get the right cut of beef because we didn't have the money for it. So you got to cook differently, even though it was never cooked that way in the last umpteen years that the restaurant has been open. When you have the meat that you have, you got to cook it, you got to adjust, which is a brilliant kind of way that security attachment can move through the world.
Yes.
And people who are insecurely attached can find those moments. Whether it's pervasive and consistent is a whole nother matter. And so here Carmi is able to use his independence, his knowledge to solve a problem.
Yeah. And
Marcus is secure enough to receive it, even if he's initially jostling and pushing. And it's Marcus is beautifully a sort of emblematic secure attachment figure in the system.
Yeah.
There's that scene where the first episode where Carmi and Cousin are having this big old fight, and Cousin is trying to sort of blame Carmi for why things aren't going very well and over the last couple weeks, and why they can't pay their vendors. And then Cousin tries to kind of come with some receipts about how he has been trying to deal with his own divorce, but he hasn't been able to deal with it because he's trying to keep his whole Carmi's whole family together. And sort of is like, I forget the exact lines of it, but this is your brother's house, or this is your brother's restaurant, or this is, and I'm here, this big person that I've been really holding it together.
It's been me.
And Carmi comes back with like, well, then why didn't he leave the restaurant to you?
Such a painful.
So painful. A painful reality.
Right.
It's true. And it really checks Cousin.
His worst fear just came alive.
That's right.
I wasn't enough.
Confirmed it.
Yeah.
I don't really belong. I'm not really family. I'm not really Italian. I think, of course, Carmi is probably asking the same damn question. I don't know why my brother left this to me, and I don't know what I'm doing here. That opening scene with Sydney and Carmi, he asked, well, what are you doing here? Like, you have a great resume. And, her answer is, because I know who you are, and I want to.
And then the question, what are you doing?
And then she turns it right back so beautifully.
Yeah.
And his answer is, I'm making sandwiches. It's like, way to avoid all the feelings.
All the things.
It's such a dismissive dick move. Say that. So Marcus, so what does it get at? Marcus comes in at the end of that conflict between Carmi and Cousin, and he just opens up the refrigerator and breaks this tension.
That's right. Yeah.
Right out of olive oil. And he's like, hurt. It's just like this, bros. This is an ineffective fight. Do it somewhere else.
You're wasting our time.
You're wasting our time. We've got shit to do. We're here not to resolve family problems. We're here to work. Right. Except we're not. But he just comes in with this just beautiful, the way that they've written it, intentionally or not. Marcus comes in connecting and refereeing in a way that is beautiful, it seems.
Yeah, there's some things I can't put my finger on, but there'll be plenty of opportunities for that exact thing to happen later on.
Sure.
I want to think about that more. We do need to get towards the family meal, family dinner, and then wrap this one up.
Okay.
Again, this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited about it. But the stark contrast of all the chaos, and then all of a sudden of the system.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, ding, it is dinner time.
Yeah.
A family dinner. Sid's prepared. Looks like a beautiful gourmet something or other.
in the least gourmet,
right, in plastic bins,
where like
to-go containers.
Yeah.
And everything, all the tension, like you can just feel like the tension of the show just like deflated. And then they all start talking about what they're grateful for and just kind of playfully jabbing one another.
Yes.
Yeah, go.
Yeah. I think the family dinner is this window into repair. That we just had this shit show of a prep. They didn't even get into the actual service of the day.
Right.
This is eating dinner before we actually serve other people dinner.
Right.
And it's been this chaos of people cussing at each other, cousin using such homophobic, sexist language, and fighting between cousin and Carmi, and Tina and everyone, but Tina and Carmi, Tina and Sydney. You have these beautiful moments where Marcus is trying to connect with people. He connects with Ibrahim. Ibrahim is trying to try on American English slang that is also kind of talking trash.
Yeah.
But no one is connecting well. No one is working collaboratively. People are working against each other. And then it moves to this attempt to repair, to connect, to behold one another, to see each other's humanity, even with some playful teasing.
Yeah.
And that meal was prepared with such skill and creativity, because Sydney has no idea what she's going to cook, because she has no idea what's there, what's available. So she's creative and flexible. These are all sort of windows into security. And I find that whole evening scene, and one of the things that it does is it brings out Tina's tenderness.
It does, yes.
Which I thought was so lovely.
Yeah, it made, because the volume was way down in that moment. Like there's even a facial expression she made where she sticks her tongue out, and it's kind of bashful, and because she says that, like, I'm thankful for all you. I can't remember what adjective or
sure.
bitches or something. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, she's a softie, and shows that side of her. I think in that moment maybe I want to play around with the idea that there's not a threat. There's nothing to really survive in that one moment.
Yeah.
It's like all the shields are down, all the weapons are down. It's like in this brief moment, it's just understood. The family system knows that we're safe here.
Yeah.
And so it just, yeah.
Yeah. So we don't need to come with all of our defenses,
right?
All of our ineffective strategies to keep us safe, even if sometimes and at some point in their life that did keep them safe, and they're able to, sit and enjoy one another, savor the moment, savor the food. And it was probably their first time eating a Michelin star level meal. Many of them, I'm sure, have never eaten
plantain with a fennel salad.
What Sydney was capable of.
Yeah.
To be fed that way, to be nurtured, cared for,
attended to.
So it's, I find the family dinner, this window, this peek into, oh, maybe this show is going to be about a repair, a healing.
Yeah. But the only one not participating was Carmi.
Yes.
Do you want supper? I'm good, chef.
Yes.
So his attachment strategy was still online.
Absolutely.
And he briefly saw Sid's as soon as he denied it. Hers was like, oh no.
Yeah.
A little bit of panic.
Yes.
But then I think the collective, almost nervous system said, no, it's okay. Like, come back. We're enjoying this. Yeah. It's a really touching, beautiful scene.
It moves you.
I have a tear. What is that? What is that? But yeah.
Repair is where it's at.
Yeah.
And it's what so many of us are robbed of.
Yeah. It's not uncommon in my sessions, and like when a repair happens, that this response happens.
Yeah.
I'll have one tear come down. Yeah. So this is the emotional up and down roller coaster that is the bear.
Oh, sure. Ain't that the truth?
That is also life. Any other way you want to wrap up?
No. There's so much more. We'll keep touching on it.
Yeah, the themes keep coming up over and over again, which is much like in our training as therapists. I don't know. I'm assuming you're trained this way. I was trained like, don't worry if you miss it.
Oh,
it's going to come right back up.
If it's important, it'll come back.
It's going to come back. Yeah.
Maybe in a different shape or form, but it's still there. Yep.
Yeah. All right. It's been a pleasure. On to episode 2. We just did 1. That's it.
That's good.
All right.
All right.
Later.
Bye.